welcome to the Hibiscus Children's Center show. We're thrilled to have you here. Every time we have an opportunity to get in front of our community and share what we do to take care of abused and abandoned children, we're just thrilled. Today I have guests with me in the studio. I have Naheed and Haniya. Hi, welcome.
Hi, welcome.
Thank you.
It's nice to have you here.
Thank you.
Nice
Thank
to
you
be
for
here.
having us.
You're a little nervous. Well, I hope as we start to talk, our audience will get an appreciation for how they can be involved at Hibiscus Children's Center. So as both of you know, we've been around for 30 years. We started in Jensen Beach with a facility that takes care of children 0 to 15 years of age, and we take care of about 36 kids a day. It's a lot of kids, isn't it?
Wow.
Definitely.
Definitely, yeah. Indeed.
You know, most of us, well, I know you have 2 kids, so can you imagine have 36
I have
in your
3.
home? Oh, you have 3?
I have 3 kids.
Oh, I wasn't aware of that. So
Yes.
you have Haniya and?
I have a boy and 2 girls.
Okay, and are they grown and gone?
My son, he's doing his residency, and my daughter is in medical school. And then, of course, I have Haniya.
Wow, medical school. So you've got some
I got
high
some
standards.
big shoes to fill, yeah, for
Well,
sure.
terrific. You know that what's neat about that story is, as I mentioned, we started in Jensen Beach. We take care of kids, and we're trying to reinvigorate them, restore a sense of hope, and the belief that they could do what you're trying to do with your life. You know, many of our kids have lost that kind of hope because the adults that are associated with have they've lost trust in those adults. There's been abuse that's gone on, and so all of a sudden these kids believe they can't do anything, that they have no value. It's just hard to imagine, isn't it?
It definitely
it is,
is.
definitely, yeah. It's heartbreaking. It's very heartbreaking.
It really is. Well, the good news is, in the mid-'90s, we then expanded to, well, if we're taking care of children 0 to 15 years of age, what happens when they're 16, 17?
Yeah.
So we opened up an operation called The Village in Indian River County, and there we take care of children 13 to 17 years of age, and they bring different challenges. Because
Definitely.
now you're, you know, and I know, Haniya, you're very aware of this because you're doing some work there, and I want to hear about that in a minute. But these are kids who, you know, they're a lot older. When you think about adopting a child, it's kind of easy to get your head around, I'm going to adopt a 3-year-old, you know,
Exactly.
there's not a lot of trauma there, although there is, but boy, when they're 16, 17, there's a lot of
Lot more.
entrenched trauma.
True.
Yeah.
And so a
Absolutely.
lot more difficulty. And so we're thrilled that we're doing that, and we take care of about 40 teenagers there. So some exciting things that we're doing there. We've also expanded our operations in St. Lucie County, which, Naheed, I'm going to want to hear from you on what your thoughts are on that. But
Absolutely.
We've got a 6-bed facility there. And then we just opened up an operation in Broward County. And it's a 10-bed,
Oh, wow.
10-bed facility
Wow.
there. So we're reaching people. Now, the reason I'm excited to have you two here is because, you know, I get paid to do this. And we have paid staff members. But we can't get it done alone. And so you two represent our community where you can volunteer. So, Naheed, I'm going to start with you.
Absolutely.
How did you get acquainted with Hibiscus Children's Center, and why are you associated with us?
I went with Haniya last summer to the village, and I was very intrigued by all the work that's being done, and also felt very compassionate about the role that not only the staff, but the way the students are and how they interact with the staff. And I definitely felt that this was a place I want to be. Also from my background back in India, where I've seen a lot of poverty and a lot of agony with kids. And I definitely felt that this was the place I would like to be, and that's how it all got me motivated. And of course, Haniya was a great influence in getting me involved as well.
Well,
So it was one
let's
of
talk
my
about that
reason.
for a minute. So usually it's mom getting daughter motivated, but in this case, Haniya, it was you who got your
Yeah.
mom kind of excited about it. So how'd that happen?
Well, I think for me, being a student in a public school, it's been very. It's definitely difficult being a teenager. So when I saw that it was even more difficult for students of my age in these particular situations, and when I went to the village and I walked through all the houses and all the great opportunities you guys have, I wanted to have a more teenage-based presence. I wanted to have a program that was more teenagers helping teenagers, a peer-to-peer situation. So when I went there and I started teaching piano, I also wanted to show different facets of science and math and music and kind of incorporate all of that into one. So I think when my mom saw just the great need there is for students of our age, I think that's what kind of got her involved as well. And I think that's what I think about that work inspired her to also become a big influencer in Hibiscus.
Well, that's pretty exciting.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So-
she would come home and tell me anecdotes of her day at the Hibiscus Center, and I would very intensively listen to what she had to say. And I said, "Oh my God, we have so much to give back to the community, absolutely." And this
Right.
was my fabulous opportunity, not only to be a part of it, but also be encouraged by my daughter that, "Mom, we really need to give back," and that's why we are here.
Well, that's really exciting. And I hope our audience can get an appreciation for that, because I think for me, doing this kind of work every day, what I learned is that most people in our communities simply aren't aware
Yeah.
of how big the
That's
need is.
Exactly.
So I
That
know
is
you
true.
two live in St. Lucie County.
Yes, we do.
And we serve 4 counties here, Martin County, St. Lucie County, Indian River County, and Okeechobee County.
Yeah.
But by and large, the community simply doesn't understand
don't.
how pervasive child abuse is. And
That's
so I'll give you
right,
some
yeah.
statistics that I don't think will be a surprise to you. But in America, over 50,000 children are abused every single year.
Wow.
In Florida, over 3,000 children a month are removed from their home for some child abuse related issue. 1 in 5 children die every single day at the hands of a loved one who is supposed to be taking care of them. So it's a daunting challenge. And so we, as I mentioned earlier, we can't get it done without you.
Thank you.
And it's just a matter of how do we get the community to know? So I'm glad that you got involved, Haniya and Naheed. I'm glad you listened to your daughter. Because you need
I
to.
did.
So you've kind of explained that you recognized there was a need that you wanted to get back. I think we can intuitively see that because you show up giving piano lessons, that the child might get something out of that. What do you get out of that as a volunteer?
I think for me, the biggest thing I get out of it is appreciation for what I have and what's offered to me as a student. And I think that gives me a big insight into just how much more I can give back in terms of my science experience and my math experience, that there's just so much more that can be put out into the community. And I think that aspect that people don't, like you said, people don't know, and just like we didn't know at first.
Right.
And when you get exposed to it and you learn from it, and there's a lot of things that these students know that we don't know, that they teach us, like musical rhyme and things of that sort that they want to learn.
Right.
And I really found that to be the most enticing part of teaching piano and teaching different aspects of music
Right.
at Hibiscus Children's Center.
Well, great. So Naheed, you mentioned when we were talking before we got on air that you were hoping to talk a little bit about Sanctuary for Kids. I know you're involved there a little bit. So can you tell us about what you're doing in that arena?
So we had this really fabulous gala event on November the 11th, and I was very fortunate to be a part of it. We raised a substantial amount of money for that cause, and I really hope that more and more people would get involved and become a part of it. And we have the St. Lucie Guild.
Yep.
That is huge, and I again encourage people to become a part of it and become a part of a noble cause that's close to my heart, and I hope this message will radiate in many households to come. The whole event was very beautifully done with the help of several volunteers. Everyone who became a part of it did it without any personal gain. It was just for to give back to the community, and I think that's what is what will radiate in the future as well.
I agree. And so I'm glad you mentioned the guild. I'm not sure everybody understands what a guild is, but just to educate our audience, in 2 of our counties, Martin County and Indian River County, we have very large guilds. They're primarily women. It's not by design that it's women. There are men that can be a part of it. But by and large, it's a group of women who have dedicated themselves to the mission of Hibiscus Children's Center, and they focus on those individual communities to raise awareness and raise fundings for at events like galas and things like that. But in St. Lucie County, it's something we're trying to grow, And so I'm encouraged that you've joined that effort, and we want more women and men
To be
a part of it.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, and again, the more ambassadors we have out there, because as I listen to you two, again, I'm a paid spokesman. You are people that have just said, we need to give back. And I think your voice needs to be heard in our community.
I definitely think that, when I started the work and people saw, it definitely encouraged them to also participate in things like that. So I know that some of my friends went to Hibiscus a month ago and they volunteered, and they went and did all those and helped the students and things of that sort. So you see that like one person's actions kind of radiates and ripples through the whole population that they're in. So I think that's a big factor of getting involved in your community, because when other people see that, they also have this need to get involved as well.
Exactly, and I think there's no better way for, especially American children.
Yeah.
We're a blessed country.
We really are.
You
We
mentioned,
indeed are.
You
We
mentioned
really are
coming
very
from
blessed.
India, and we all, whether we do it the right way or the wrong way, we all have stereotypes that we build in. So
Yeah.
it's, in my mind, is I think about India just as you've kind of talked about. There's a lot of poverty there. And
There is.
We get it, but I'm American, so I've never been to India. And when you think about America, oftentimes you think, well, there's a very affluent country.
Yeah.
And, everything's going right there, and that's not the
Always
case,
the case.
all the time with
Yeah.
our kids.
True.
So I think it's important that we have community ambassadors like you reminding us that there's a need here.
Definitely.
One thing I don't think our community knows, and I know you two are aware of it because you're so closely aligned with us, we receive about 70% of our funding from the federal government or the state government. But even after receiving that funding, we have to raise about 30% of the remaining funds. So you mentioned the gala a few minutes ago, and that's how we get the community involved, give financially to help us. We're raising about $2 million every single year just to keep the program going.
Wow.
So it's a daunting task.
Definitely.
But one thing, it's not always about the money. So most people, again, would kind of stereotype there's another nonprofit and always got your hand out asking for a donation. But donations are fine, but what you two are doing has a lot more value. So Haniya, when we talked early on about you going to college and the big shoes you've got to fill, well, it's kind of easy to see your path. We know that you take one step, you take a second step, and at the end of that, you've got a college education, you've got a good career, and you can be a thriving member of your community. But if you don't do what you're doing now, which is volunteering for less fortunate kids, if those kids don't graduate, they lose about $250,000 a year in earning potential.
Wow.
And so it's a serious challenge. And if they're not making that kind of money as they're going through their life, it has a huge impact on our society as well. So it's there's a real financial impact when we don't address the kids. More alarming, and if you think about the kids you gave piano lessons to, if you think about the child welfare system across America. The statistics say that almost 50% of all foster kids within 2 years after they leave the system will be incarcerated. Now, that's not our kids at the village. We have a huge success rate there. But across the country, it's a daunting challenge. So we've got to get in front of kids. And as simple as a piano lesson sounds, as simple as it sounds to teach them a scientific theory, it has a major impact.
I definitely think it does. I remember when I first began, I had one student and she didn't want to really do it. And as I kept going every week, she got more and more involved and she got more and more excited to do it. And she started doing all the pieces in the book. And I saw that it just took a few people to motivate and a few people to just kind of push a student and just someone to push them to finally make them see their potential in something, regardless if it's piano or music or science or anything. They just need that push. They need someone to tell them that they can do it.
Right.
And that's something that I think is really important in the village and the work that you guys do as well.
Well, that's great.
Yeah.
And I also want to chime into what Haniya said earlier. And when they see someone that's almost the same age as they are, that kind of motivates them even more. That it's not coming from an adult, it's coming from someone that's my age.
Right.
And oh golly gosh, I really should be doing what she can do, and
Right.
why not? And I think that kind of aligns everything better in a way that she gives back to the students out there at Hibiscus.
No, I agree 100%. You and I represent the old guard. Not trying to call you old or anything. But you're right, Haniya. You bring a level of sincerity and a level of believability that our kids can kind of understand. There's a girl that looks just like me. I happened to be at the village some weeks ago, and there were kids around the piano. There you were, and just to look at the group of kids, I couldn't tell any of you apart. I couldn't by a glance say, oh, there's a child that lives here and there's a child that's volunteering.
Exactly.
Kids are kids.
Absolutely,
And so I think that's your point, that you bring a lot of value to the lives of our kids.
Yeah, and I think also by being a student, the way I get them involved is by being like more, I guess, modern in a sense. So like through the program, we got the keys. DJ
Right.
Khaled always has that little thing. He's like, oh, I got the key to success.
Right.
So by like integrating that into like the program name, I think that also brings students, oh wow, this is someone that knows like what
Right.
teenagers are into, because she is a teenager. So
Right.
I guess like by naming it that and by giving it a more modern and contemporary look, I kind of was able to get more kids involved, especially in the art seminars and the piano seminars and things of that
that's
sort.
great. Well, that's super exciting.
Yeah, definitely.
So, Naheed, we have an audience primarily in St. Lucie County.
We do.
That are going to be listening to this program. What would you say to our audience about getting involved? Well, how would you encourage them?
I would really think of Hibiscus as something that you should be compassionate about, like I am. It's a cause, it's a noble cause that is close to my heart, and I urge everyone who's listening to be a part of the St. Lucie Guild, to open up your purses, to be generous in not only your hours, but also in your contributions. And we need people to be a part of this cause, because there's so many kids out there that are being abused or are in situations you wouldn't want yourself to be in. And so I really encourage everyone out there to believe in no child should be left behind.
That's right.
Whatever the reason might be, no child should be left behind. And I think that is a noble cause I take on.
Well, I couldn't have said it better, so thank you. I'm glad you said it. So, Haniya, what about you? What would you say to your peer group?
My peer group. Well, I definitely think that, as students, we don't think that there's any way to get involved. We think of ourselves as too young to do anything. We say, oh, we have to wait till we become something to make an impact, and I really don't think that's true. I think giving back to your community starts when you're young, and if you start that when you're young, you carry it through all your years of living. And I really want to encourage students of my age to go out and volunteer, not just for the hours they get for their transcript, but rather for the quality, for the experience, and for the love and compassion that you can develop for other people, and for what you can give back and what you can get from the populations that you cater to and help. Yeah,
that's well said. I often tell people when I meet them, they'll ask, well, where do you work? And I'll tell them Hibiscus Children's Center. And some in our community recognize, oh, that's that place that takes care of kids. Sometimes they don't know that it's abused kids. They have a very generic understanding of what we do. What I like to tell people is we're in the business of hope. And HOPE is an acronym for us. So the H stands for Healing Hearts, and the O stands for Overcoming Adversity. The P stands for giving our kids a sense of purpose in their life, and the E stands for enriching their lives. So it's so much more than taking care of kids who've been abused. In other words, a child comes to us, we give them a place to sleep, and we give them 3 meals a day, and we send them off to school. It's so much more than that.
It is.
And that's what I
Definitely.
think you two represent for us, that we actually care about these kids. We believe that there's a better future for them, even though they don't believe it themselves.
Yeah.
We are in the business of restoring that hope. And so I want to thank you for being here and helping us convey that message. I hope our audience will listen to both Naheed
hope.
and
I hope so as well.
Get involved, get more students involved, and seeing another side of our culture that they can make an
Absolutely.
impact in.
Yeah.
And it's not just about writing the check or any of those types of things. It's more about
Absolutely.
what do you get out of it as a volunteer.
Exactly.
So
You get a lot out of it. For
Yeah,
sure.
you really do.
Yeah, you really do.
All right. Well, I want to thank you for joining us today on our program. As you can hear from our guests, they're very passionate about Hibiscus Children's Center.
Yeah.
You're making a difference. What I like to tell our community is you go through life in one of two ways. You either make a mark or you leave a stain. Our kids have that stain on their life as it relates to child abuse.
Yeah.
You two are coming in and saying we can make a mark, and you can make a mark in society too. And so thank you for giving our kids hope.
Thank you for
Thank you
having
again
us.
for being a part of our program. If you want to get involved, go to our website at hibiscuschildrencenter.org and volunteer. Find a way to get involved, because what you do really makes a lasting impression on our kids, and it changes a life. Thank you so much.